Blastpop here. Been a while since I've done a video, and I have here in front of me Target for Today, a game which I have won on the Pay It Forward Facebook website. Now, I received this game in unpunched condition and decided that it reminded me a lot of the old B17 days that was published by Avalon Hill back in the early 1980s. And so, having gained that familiarity with the system, and this is the heir apparent or spiritual successor, as they claim it to be, for B17 Queen of the Skies, I decided that I might want to give this game a go, and realizing that it's more like the advanced B17 game. Well, in addition to the B17, you also have the B24 and the YB40. Now you have a nice chart here where you can put your airplane counter, and you can replace it with another one if you're playing a different aircraft. So you get to have an aircraft in the center of the map that is what you are flying in the game. So this mission that I'm going to be starting in the near future is going to be a B-17G. And like B-17, you set up your airplane. You'll put your crews in the various boxes of the card to indicate the condition of the various crew members. Also, on the other side here, during setup, you can also determine where you are within the formation. That way there, it makes modifiers to what happens to you during the course of the game. And then, of course, trying to prevent you from accomplishing your mission are various enemies that you'll see right here, which include 109s, 190s, Hinkle 162s, even ME-262s, among others. In order to resolve this mission, should you choose to accept and return, maybe unlikely, is a series of booklets which include various game tables to play out your missions and determine what goes on. So at its most basic level, you have a rules book, which is rather dense in text, but as it turns out, there's a lot of historical information included in the body of the instructions. And, that's quite a comprehensive rule book, but it doesn't really look that difficult because you just basically roll on charts and see what happens to you next, and then you make limited decisions based on what happens to you. So you have a B-17 bomber, and what you attempt to do is figure out, not only what are you going to bomb, but how you're going to do it. So, based on the year and the type of airplane and the Air Force that you happen to be, whether it's the 8th Air Force or the 15th Air Force, you'll roll on these tables, find a target, and having done that, and this is in a very abbreviated explanation, you will assemble your aircraft and crew and decide to fly. And hopefully you don't end up like this one here or worse. And because you have different models, where you get hit and what happens to you is based on the particular aircraft model that you're flying. So it's airplane specific. Now, further to that, as you're actually doing the game, most of the charts and tables you'll be rolling on will occur in this booklet. And for instance, if takeoff, you can see what happens whether you succeed in taking off or because of bad weather. Something happens, you have to turn around, the engine goes out. And as you go from zone to zone, now each target is in a different area, and some targets are relatively close. So here you have a chart which shows the zones, and some targets are only a couple zones out. Others can be 12 zones out, 15 zones out. So it gets more challenging and complicated as the game goes on. So what you're attempting to do is get to the target in one piece, drop your bombs, successfully hit the target, and hopefully make your way home. And again, these enemies here are going to attempt to prevent you from doing that. And then as you get hit, you'll roll on the various tables to see what happens to you. So if you're flying your B17 and you have a ME-110 at 6 o'clock high, you'll roll on a table and see what the results are. If you're hit, it could basically be a miss. It could, it hits nothing really structurally important, or it could be critical damage. Hit an engine, hit a crew member. And so if, for instance, the pilot compartment is hit, which is more likely from, say, a 12 o'clock high position, you can roll on the table and see what happens to that individual, whether it's the co-pilot, whether it's superficial damage, you hit the instruments, oxygen supply. And while this is going on, you're not sitting back content taking the damage. You are attempting to get rid of the enemy fighters by shooting at them with your gunners or driving them off with your fighter escort, if you have fighter escort in the area. So this is a very thematic game that creates a storyline that's unique for every mission as you play it. And I can attest to this, though I have not played this, I've heard so much about this game, and also by virtue of the fact that I played a lot of B17 in my day. So I know exactly the kind of game this is, but again, with so many new airplanes that you're allowed to use, the number of enemies has increased that you have available to fight, and just it's such a more rich game whose time has come because of the state-of-the-art of game design has advanced over the years. So anyway, this is a brief synopsis of Target for today. This has been Blastpop. Bye.